Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Detroit in Black and White. Morning, Derek Henry. This is our Saturday edition. I'm Adolph Mongo. Jim Nardone. What's up, Jim?
Good morning. Wake up, everybody. Come on the show. Let's have some fun today. Let's solve some of the world's problems.
Go ahead. You got the floor, Jim.
I have the floor. Well, I just want to revisit yesterday for just 1 minute, if I could. All right. I think as human beings, we all look at solutions differently. We all want to find solutions for problems, but I think we start when we talk about reparations. We need to recognize that what's called reparations today is not a gift. All right. I think that's where people get confused. It's never been a gift. It's taking care of people that have suffered immeasurable pain. And we need to recognize that. And we need to start from that point. Reparations are not a gift. All right. We can talk about education. I'm against all that. And I've been on the record for that. If somebody in California are talking about $127,000 a year because Black people live 8 or 9 years less than white people. So that's around $1 million. If you want to give people $1 million, give them $1 million with no limitations, just give them $1 million. That's my take. We had one of our viewers who is a dear friend of mine, who was talking about some of the so-called solutions that I disagree with. There's been, whether it's Illinois, Evanston, whether it's Detroit, there's rules and regulations about who can get what. Whether it's California, they have the descendants, they make all these rules and regulations about who should get what. And I'm kind of against that. What I appreciate about Evanston is they decided that if you lived in Evanston in these 80 years and you were a Black person, you're entitled to it, right? Too many rules, too much. But our viewer, who I find one of the kindest, most gentle human beings I've ever met in my life, who will stop on the side of the road, who takes care and feeds homeless veterans, who volunteers her time, and to attack her because she bought into maybe the rhetoric of we'll just let people go to college. Not everybody wants to go to college. Again, you're placing limits on the ability of what people should get. We need to give people what they deserve. It's not a gift. Their family, through blood and sweat and death and destruction, earned this money. And we need to not place limits on what they receive if we come to a conclusion. And yesterday, there was some confusion. I wasn't talking about an education endowment. I was talking about the theory of you can put $20 billion in an account. You can spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and next year you can have 22 billion. My point was there's a method to solve this problem. There's a way to do it, but people don't want to do that. So let's not attack our allies. So if you knew this lady, the person that attacked her, I think you guys would have way more in common than you would have differences. So let's talk and let's educate people. Let's learn about people. Let's not attack. So we're not gonna throw you off the show if you want to attack me or Adolph or anybody else. But fighting with each other does not solve the problem.
Okay. Well, Jim, why don't you read some of the comments?
Kenneth Reed. Good morning, Kenneth Reed. It's a beautiful Saturday. I agree. The sun's shining. I opened my doors and turned off the air. I'm glad you got your exercise in. The Evanston, Illinois reparations issue is for all citizens, just not Black folk. All that said, there will never be reparations for Black people in America. Good morning, Eric. It's good to see you. I was a little worried about you. Cut the check and do it now, Les. Thank you. Deborah Harris, good morning. Glad to see you. Deborah is the voice of reason, always. Good morning to Mary Kemet. You missed the show last night. I was thinking about you a little bit, Tamari. Tamaya Brown, good morning, y'all. Good morning, Janet Overall. And Derek, as Adolph mentioned, Derek, we're glad to have you. Derek's always here and he's always first. Derek is a guy that's never late to anything, and I appreciate that, Derek.
Okay. Well, and we talked before the show about what's happening in Washington D.C. We know there's a lot of stuff happening, but there's some backroom dealings, meetings, or whatever among Republicans by way of Donald Trump, who wants to get rid of the filibuster. Can you tell our viewers, some of our viewers, what a filibuster is?
Well, I guess to tell them in general terms, it's overriding the Senate's 60 senator vote to move legislation forward. And I think where the filibuster has really hurt us, and my issue is this: we need the filibuster. I'm going to argue for the filibuster. You can argue against it. The reason is we need, and my biggest concern is the Supreme Court now. We have activists. I'll call them, I don't know if that's the right word, activist judges. We have since, and I looked it up, all right? It started with Neil Gorsuch. He received 55% of the votes. As we know, it's 100%. 100 senators would be 100%. So he received 55 senators voting for him. Then we went to, in October of 2018, so this started in 2017, we went to Brett Kavanaugh, the I Like Beer justice on the Supreme Court. And it was 51-48. So it's getting smaller and smaller. So 2 U.S. senators that were Democrats voted for Brett Kavanaugh. In 2020, Amy Coney Barrett got 51 yes votes, 49 no votes. And I guess that doesn't equal 100. That's 99 votes. So the filibuster tries to get people to work together to solve issues. Ketanji Brown Jackson, 53-47. So she had 3 Democrats vote for her. So 3 Republicans vote for, my mistake. So it goes back and forth regardless of who the party is. So I'm in favor of the filibuster. It's like eating dessert before dinner, getting rid of the filibuster. It's a terrible decision. We need people. We need common sense in the U.S. Senate, the cooling body, as it's called.
It stalls some crazy stuff. Filibuster, the longest one was by Strom Thurmond in 1957, former governor and senator of South Carolina, who was a rabid racist, but had a black daughter on the side who he secretly, he was educating her, and nobody knew. He said it was consensual. She was 16 and he was 20-something years old. I don't call that consensual. But anyway, the Civil Rights Bill of 1957 that was about to pass, and he did 24 hours, over 24 hours, the longest filibuster by a person and by one person, because usually they do a team, and people talk. Sometimes they read out of the Bible. Sometimes they read the encyclopedia just to stall the legislation that's going to pass. Yeah, and now Trump want a simple majority. He's saying that you don't need 2/3. If it's 50-49 or whatever, or 51-49, and you need a 2/3 majority, get rid of the filibuster and just pass it, because we got the numbers. So when you got a super majority, and you look at some of these states that have super majorities, California, Democrats, super majority. Let's go to Mississippi, super majority, Republicans. Florida, super majority. Yeah. So you got all these states, one or the other. And when they talk about the battleground states, that means that one chamber of the House is Democrats and the other controlled by Republicans. So, yeah, do we need to keep it? Hell yeah, we need to keep it. Keep people on their toes. If you don't want something, negotiate. And plus, he wants to get rid of if a opposing president of a different party nominates someone for a federal bench in their state, that Democrat, I'm a Republican, that Democrat senator that's in power has the right to say, no, we don't want that. And he wants to get rid of that too. In other words, he wants to get rid of whatever rule that they have because he can do what he wants to do. So we got to have checks and balances.
The end of the filibuster in the Supreme Court is to me the beginning of the end of the republic. And if you lose the filibuster in the Senate, it's not going to work. It's not. I mean, we are becoming farther and further.
All we have to do is look at what they did in Rome. Rome created the Senate, and they created the rules. If you look at Greece and Rome, they created the rules that they still abide by today. And what happened when somebody don't obey the rules? They get you got a dictator, an emperor, who never went away. Yeah, they didn't want the republic, and so how long did Rome stay a republic? Several hundred years. How long did they stay under a dictatorship, as they call it, the emperor? I guess 1,000 years, if you want to say it. Yeah, there's no question. So yeah,
I'm going to read a couple of comments, Adolph, and I want to get back to what you're saying. Good morning, Duela. Good to see you, Duela. Terry McCrimmon. If Democrats ever become the majority in the House and the Senate to be a Supreme Court position opens up, so I wish Ben Crump would get a shot at being on the Supreme Court. He's more like Thurgood Marshall. Thank you, Terry, for your comment. Yes, we got to have the filibuster. Kenneth Reed. Eric, I'm Eric and Les, I think you two need to meet at McShane's and have a lemonade or a cold beer or something. And what I started talking about earlier is why are we attacking our friends? And I think you guys have way more in common than you have more to gain by helping each other instead of fighting with each other. And I'm not going to even read the comments. We're not going to decide who's who here. All right. I'm not judging. I'm not refereeing. Let's work together. Deborah Harris, keep the filibuster by all means. Absolutely. Good morning. Filibuster is needed. Unfortunately, the scoundrel. And we go back to Trent Lott. He's a footnote to history. He's the guy that started it with the U.S. Supreme Court, right? Yeah. With Neil Gorsuch. Nobody remembers Trent. He's gone, right? But the damage that was done.
They were so.
Jackson, thank you for joining us, Stephanie. Yeah. Great to see you. Did Mitch give his opinion yet?
Mitch is dead.
We're not going to censor anybody, Les, but I think you guys are wasting your energy. Work together.
Yeah, Mitch is dead.
DeBrailer 5938. What's going on with Mitch McConnell? Is he dead, or do you think he
probably brain dead? Anybody that had a parent that gets old and sickly, what happens in the last days. They go in the hospital and they never come out. And people can say, oh, they're going to be all right and stuff. And these days you can keep a person's body alive, but the brain don't have to play. It don't go along with what you're trying to do. It's gone. And Mitch McConnell was falling frequently. He lucky he didn't kill himself. You know, the guy is burnt out and got old, and instead of running again, he should have been somewhere cooling out and enjoy his last days. I guess this is his last days. Strom Thurmond was 100 years old, dying in the hospital. That's the racist bigot. They brought him in on a gurney to vote. I say this guy can't vote, but I'm sure somebody took his hand and pushed the button because he didn't. And the guy, that's what they do. You know, they bring people out of the hospital. If they think they're gonna lose, and you got to vote, you got to go and get that person. Yeah, you know the
Terry McCrimmon
filibuster.
called it. It's Weekend at Bernie's. Last, I'm going to read this. Your comment here. Robust debate solves problems. Personal attacks solves nothing. And that's what and you know, a lot of people have attributed that to Donald Trump in the political world, but it started long before Donald Trump. Deplorables, whatever that was.
Well, we look at what happened in southeastern Michigan. Gerald Ford became president because Nixon stepped down or was going to be impeached, and he was a friend to Detroit. His administration says, "Hey, Coleman Young, we're going to give you $500 million or more to get a rail system going, whether it's not a subway, but a rail system." The People Mover was part of that rail system, and people blame Coleman Young for the government pulling the money when Reagan became president because of some words he asked about what he think of Ronald Reagan running for president. He said the prune face.
Yes, I remember.
And after he got elected, he said, "What do you call Mr. Reagan now? President Prune Face." And so you know what happened. The money disappeared. The money disappeared. And the only thing left was money to build the People Mover. SIMTA at the time. It wasn't smart. It was SIMTA. They couldn't finish it. So the city had to finish it. So that's like you was going to build a house and you got a garage and you couldn't get the financing for the house, but they said, go ahead and build a garage. You got enough money for that. That's how we got the People Mover. The People Mover wasn't supposed to be a standalone. So, yeah, here we are. You know, people that complained in Oakland County and Macomb County. Brooks Patterson say, we don't need to, we're not participating in that. We don't need that to come out to Pontiac. Same way out in Macomb County, people was opposed to it. It cut their nose off despite their face because everybody's calling everybody names. Brooks Patterson said the way to solve Detroit's problem is give half the population guns and let them kill the other half. And he said he was just joking. That's not a joke. When I hear it, Coleman Young is a racist. They're a bigot. Dearborn saying you can't come to our parks. You know, you got to live in Dearborn, but we can go to Bill Isle because they say that's the state on that. You know, and you see what happened to Dearborn, Fairlane, a boycott. They ain't never been the same. I don't know why it's even open. So yes, that folks are still arguing and still throwing the name calling and whatever. But when people look at Michigan and they look at southeastern Detroit, South, they only look at all of them together. You lump them all together. Like I told a friend, two friends, both of them was from Nigeria. They didn't know each other, and I introduced them together. They went to lunch. One came back and said, thanks for trying to uh, 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 connect me with my homeland, but I can't do that. He's an Igbo, and I'm a Hausa. That's their tribe. I say people don't know that shit here. Same way with Pakistanians and Indians. People don't know the fucking difference. When if somebody come from Ireland, are you gonna ask, are you Protestant or you Catholic? Depends on whether you want to like or not. So yeah, the shit follows people across the ocean. Uh, Man, people hold grudges, don't want to sit and talk. They name call. They call the police on parents who was trying to get their kids in school districts that they didn't live in, and now all the school districts they want kids from everywhere. They got commercials and billboards and stuff. So we done lived through that the last 50 years in this region, and fighting each other, and
And that's
it do not make this a better place to come and live.
That's exactly the point, Adolph. Terry McCrimmon, right in the nick of time, Terry. You're thinking just like me, and I appreciate it. You're smarter than me, but we think alike a little bit. Jim Blanchard and Coleman Young feud with each other is why we got John Engler. It should have never happened.
Yeah, but the bottom line is, South Africa is different from Egypt, as Detroit is from Howe. But as a state and as a continent, the Organization of African Unity got all the countries participating in it. We think NATO, all of them different in language and customs and shit, but they all got something in common, So we do have stuff in common with cities like Howe, because our money pay for the roads, you got to have cooperation. Who supplied all the water to 58, 59 communities in Michigan? The Detroit Water Department. That's why when people wanted to take it over. Yeah, so we do have stuff in common, even though we're different as night and day.
I could go back to the first time I laid eyes on Adolph Mongo. We can talk about that all day long. We're different people from different areas, and look where we are today. Well, how did that happen, Adolph? I was the only one that voted against you. Is that your story?
They say you was against. I listen. I never took nothing personal. They
Out of 12, it was like a jury of 12, and I was the holdout. Is that how it was?
Yeah, ain't no question. Jim Blanchard did run a terrible campaign. His advisors told him that he didn't need Coleman Young. See, Jim Blanchard looked at 4 years before, where Bill Lucas, who switched parties from Democrats to Republican, ran as a Republican, and he kicked the shit out of Bill Lucas because, one, hey, a lot of Republicans wouldn't vote for a black person. They voted for Blanchard, and Blanchard won by a landslide. So he thought 4 years later, his folks say, we don't need Coleman Young. Now, I was working for Coleman Young, and he wouldn't meet with Coleman Young. He wouldn't do anything. But then the night before the election, he comes to the Manugian mansion where all the mayor's appointees was, and he was asking for their support, get out the vote, etc. The mayor said, okay. When he left, at the quote, the mayor, Coleman Young said, fuck Jim Blanchard. That's what he said. And Blanchard lost by 18,000 votes, 19,000, because Coleman, he was meeting with Engler. Engler come down, ask for meetings. Man, you know, it's the game. That's how they play the game. You know, Coleman Young knew how to forge alliances in Lansing, where he convinced Republicans to go along with a special tax to save the city from bankruptcy, where Detroit been the only city that taxed itself, voted to tax itself. Unbelievable. That's 1980. You know, he got Republicans to go along with Democrats to give General Motors carte blanche to destroy a whole neighborhood, and that's not a good thing. Of Pole Town, schools, hospitals, churches, but people got money, but that some of that money you couldn't buy. Man, people been entrenched in that community, and General Motors lied, say they was going to build a tech town and build shit. There's one plant out there or whatever. So yes, so he knew how to reach across the aisle and play hardball. But does that make him not looking out for the city of Detroit? Oh no, he was looking out for the city of Detroit, and he was counting the votes instead of saying, you know, we don't need to talk to that person or that person or whatever. He went right into the lion's den, the mouth of the lions. And you know, and you gotta have people like that can make things happen on a bipartisan. Well, damn, the Democrats can't even come together in their own party. Where are we going?
That's a great question. That's the biggest point that's kind of the theme of the show today. You know, that everybody's looking out for themselves and they're not looking out for the collective. And I want to read a couple comments. I still don't think Coleman Young should have aligned with Engler, as we found out. Engler was an absolute snake.
He wasn't a lion. He was not aligned with Engler. He knew who was the governor, and you know he was trying to get whatever he can get from the governor. Now, when the state was going to close down Highland Park Community College, the mayor went there to lobby for the college to stay open. The state had the money. Highland Park Community College produced more nurses than anybody in the state at the time. But guess what? You know, the mayor tried to talk to the school board in Highland Park that they school board controlled the college and the school district at the time. The state wanted them to create a separate board to run the college. And they said, well, I'd rather see it closed. And guess what? They closed it. Not that we align ourselves with these folks. People that's in charge, you got to work with them. The Republicans closed all the mental facilities. Who had to deal with that burden of Detroit? Because they were dropping off all these folks. You can see them downtown. And hey, you know, and said, where at Lafayette Clinic? It's a charter school. Where's Northville? Oh, now they're gonna build apartments and retail. They closed Pontiac. You know, these was major facilities that housed people that had mental issues. But hey, you know, when you don't vote, when 19,000 people put in a person like England, you know, and they tell you what they're gonna do. I'm gonna cut. And when people say my vote don't count, the vote do count. If it's close, if it's tight, and if you don't have someone uh, fighting for your cause, fight that, or you join in uh, ransacking the school district because they had a $1.5 billion bond, and they spent all the money, and they gave us the school district back to the people. It was broke. Yes, now you're right, Kenneth. It is vacant. And I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't think you can put. I don't think you can put. You're gonna have to clean up that. I wouldn't want to live on that dirt. That used to be a medical facility. I don't know if they cleaned it up when they had the kids there. Yeah, but they building new apartments and condos over there. So yeah, they don't care about some of these people. You see the homeless and like people just not paying attention. They're invisible. Well, they're not invisible. So whoever in charge, you got the Republicans in charge of the House, Democrats in the Senate. You got to come to some kind of compromise, because you go and meet with the governor who's of a different party or the president. You banking on them, listening to you and willing to work with you up to a certain point, because we all know it's all about politics. All about politics. Let's take a break. We come back and continue the conversation.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. Are you living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, or maybe you know someone who's in the same situation? The probate process may be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. We have several nonprofit partners who have free attorneys who can assist you. Contact our office, 313-224-5990, or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. Don't lose your family property. Some of these properties have been in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Contact us now. We're here to help.
Oh, someone just texted me saying that Cory Booker hold the longest hold the record for the longest filibuster, 25 hours and some minutes. So okay,
I would not have been able to pull that off. Maybe I'm an old guy, but I could not have gone. He went that long without a bathroom break.
Right. I guess he was wearing the pins or whatever.
I don't know what he was doing, but I wouldn't have. I would have been running a little boy's room. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
So can I get some comments, Adolph?
Yeah, let's get some comments.
Most homeless are mentally unstable. These fake organizations prey upon the vulnerable, disabled people. Miss Sheila, I'm here to help them. Thank you, Miss Sheila. And I'm going to come back to your comment in just a minute. The quality of these new apartments are subpar. Brownfield development dollars going to have to be utilized for the cleanup. The mental health crisis is being ignored in the same fashion as educational crisis. Eric Brown. Where is Mr. Duckett? I see Mr. Duckett somewhere. I lost him. Thank you, Mr. Duckett. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining the show today. We miss you when you're away. So good morning to you. Yes, John Engler, and we talked about that at length. How much did it really cost when John Engler tossed all the people with challenges to the streets? How much did it really cost? He did it to save money, and it probably cost Michigan government how much and then
we look at what Granholm did, the cut. She got rid of the state fair, which I thought every August, a lot of young people like the state fair. I thought I wasn't too, in love with the state fair, but that was a cut, you know, and now it's just it's Amazon, and the other half is empty. You know, it's like these politicians, whether they throw darts on a map and say we're gonna cut this out or we're gonna do this, and then they don't think about the people that it hurt. Folks over in western part of Michigan, and I was a newspaper reporter there over in Kalamazoo. Uh, they blame their misery on Detroit. And I like to try to tell some of these people that I work with, man, do your homework. Detroit is not your problem. If Detroit's not getting all the money and stuff, man, that's the shit they feed you. Your elected official who keep getting elected because they come and say, I'm anti-Detroit, I'm anti-Southeastern Michigan. So
I'm looking for a comment Tamari made. Eric and Lesser, Blanchard was filled with hubris. Kenneth Reed, Blanchard did the same thing the Democrats do, take the black vote for granted. I think Jim Blanchard took all votes for granted. John James, I agree, Terry. I think some folks on this show believe John James has a chance. I think John James is going to get smoked, but that's just me. I could be wrong. Commonality refers to the degree of which different items, systems, or ideas possess mutual elements or overlap in design and function. You're absolutely right, Deborah. I don't know how to answer that except to say that, we have more in common than we don't. And I think that's what you're telling us. Thank you, Deborah. I just want to, before we move on, and Miss Sheila had made a comment, she's here to help. And Miss Sheila has spent her life educating our young people. Eric Brown lives day and night, and he'd be yelling at me right now, shut up, Jim. But he spends every ounce of his energy trying to educate young people and trying to make the system work. Let's work together. Maybe we need to have a big gathering for the Detroit and Black and White crew, because we did not too long ago had some people come together, and we met and we learned a lot about each other. Let's quit fighting our allies. All right. It doesn't solve anything. That's what they want. They want us to be divided, right? The people in power that are seeking absolute power, they want us to be divided. That's how they get their power. And
somebody asked, is there still a state fair? I don't know. Is it out in Novi or somewhere?
Yes, at the suburban show place or something.
That's not a state fair,
right?
That's something. The state fair. The Shrine Circus used to come to town. Is any circuses left? Because the way they treated the animals, and people outraged. So you don't even have the clowns. You have nothing. State fair.
I appreciate everybody that participates on this show. I don't care who they are. We may agree, we may disagree. Let's work together to solve problems, to try and reach people. That's why we're here. We're not here to attack each other. So let's not. So,
well, but anyway.
We can attack each other. I'm going to attack Adolph, but that's a different story. I have no patience for anti-black zealots. That's fine, Les. I don't have Tamari. I don't see the comment, but I was looking for it earlier. She talked about black people united to stand together for reparations. I don't know where it is. I was looking for that comment. You're absolutely right. They're a debt owed. I agree with you 100%. That's not the comment, but the comment was about black people. Well, I'm going to tell you this, Tamari. You're never going to get reparations unless you get all people united. That's really the challenge. It's not about just black people. It's about all people, because a certain group deserves payment for the blood, for the bondage, but you need all people to be on board with that. And I know Eric says there's no progress. I agree there's no progress. It could happen. And we talked about it yesterday at length. The money is there. And whether it happens or not, do I think it's an uphill battle? Absolutely. No one's going to say it's not an uphill battle, but so was, the Healthcare Act and the money that there's a lot of things that people thought were impossible that became possible. And we have to have faith, but we have to apply ourselves to getting things done.
But, reparations was proposed of 40 acres and a mule, but it was never implemented. There was land that the Union soldiers took from the plantations in South Carolina and gave it to freed slaves, built freedom schools, etc. And but that was taken away. And you know what the property was? Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head.
Oh boy!
And, right after slavery was ended, those places where Black folks, free Black people, and abolitionists came to open schools and to get Black folks prepared to go out into society as free people. But that property was taken during the Reign of Terror during the 1870s.
And Tamari has already recognized. Thank you, Tamari, for pointing that out. Adolph is making the point. Thank you. Tamari is right on with that. Thank you, Tamari.
So if we're going to get reparations, the people in the city of Detroit going to have to demand it. Now, power doesn't. You got to demand power, and you got to demand it. You're not going to get shit. You don't get anything without a demand, and you got to let your elected officials know what done happened to the reparations. What happened to the commission? What happened to MDOT saying we're gonna tear up 375, and then they back down and say we're not doing this or that? What happened to Harmony Park, where they designated that Paradise Valley, but you go and look at some of the empty buildings over there, that's not owned by Black people. They owned by the same folks that own everything else, but they're not. They waiting for the right time to put something else in there, because really they had no intention of doing what they said they was going to do. They're supposed to be a recreation of Paradise Valley. I don't know how with 4 or 5 restaurants that's not a recreation, but so reparations. What, you $50 check for everybody in Detroit? What's on the table? What is on the fucking table?
And I argued yesterday that the money is available, and I argued how it can become available and how it can last forever for the descendants. The government, private industry. There are people that bought ambulances and police cars and artwork. Those people are out there. You need and they're willing to get money. They're giving it to your universities.
Well, I'll tell you one person that's doing her part. I don't call it reparations, but Mackenzie Scott, who used to be married to Jeff Bozo the Clown, gave millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to HBCUs, colleges. And I got a friend whose daughter goes to Howard that's in medical school. She went to Howard, gave all the medical students at Howard $25,000 cash to do with whatever they want. Gave it to her. They give she give money to you name it, they give the money to the schools. And Elon Musk, he's upset. Why are you doing that and all that? That's DEI. Well, if it's DEI, it keep going because she do not play, and she gives money. Jim, you must have been talking to her because when she give money to folks and to organizations, no strings attached. Do with whatever you want to do with it, because I guess she feels that 90% of the folks is going to do the right thing with the money. You know, that's all you can hope for. You know,
That's exactly the point,
you,
Adolph.
you give somebody money to pay for their light bill or a gas bill or water bill, or it's going to be cut off, and you hope that they pay the bill. And, you know, because they can't come back and say, I didn't pay the bill. I needed to get a coat or whatever, you know, but it can't get mad, you know. You just, if you don't give them anything, yeah. But
thank you, Eric. Eric's talking about reparations as a political situation. I'll call it a situation.
I don't know who's on the task force except Keith Williams. I don't know, and
well, he's an outlier.
And Joanne Watson died, so yeah.
And Keith Williams fought with him, and he does not represent the board. And I read all about that nonsense. But here's the problem with the reparations task force. In my view, people are welcome to. I'm not going to argue that, you know, we can talk about law enforcement discrimination, but those are two different things. They may be intertwined, but that just muddies the water when you're talking about Detroit police not working with federal agencies as part of a task force recommendation. That's not what this is about. You can talk about the link, but that's not a resolution. And when Eric talks about a president and vice president not being in line for I spoke with somebody after the show last night, and they said, we need to quit calling it reparations, all right? Because that's turned into a bad word, right? I don't know if we need to call it reparations or we need to call it making people whole, or call it justice.
They didn't call it reparations when they gave it to $20,000 to Japanese survivors and descendants of internment camps of World War II. They called it an apology.
Justice is what they
yeah, they didn't call it reparations, but they gave it to them, you know.
Eric's right. Everybody's not on the same page. But if you look at it differently, if you look at it from a different lens of not saying this is reparations because we want to do this to this is not a gift. I don't know how many times we can say this, but people think it's a gift because they're not educated. That's why we need people like Les and Eric and Miss Sheila and Kenneth Reed and everybody on the show, Tamari. The list goes on. I can name everybody that's name came up on this show and everybody that didn't comment today. That's why we need everybody to be involved. Let's call it the American Justice Project. We don't need to call it Mary Sheffield's Reparations Task Force, right?
No, we sure don't. But with the new mayor, I guess, you know, when you got advisors saying you don't need to talk about reparations, you know, that's like a bad word. Oh,
thank you, Deborah. With no strings attached, with no limitations. Let's give somebody money for all the pain and suffering and death, but we're going to tell you that you have to spend it on school or on housing, or that to me that's complete bullshit.
And somebody said, well, are you going to give reparations to people that were displaced, black bottom? How do we know who to give it to? They got the census, people. You know that it gave addresses and names and stuff of people that live in that area. They know who they are and stuff. They kept records, you know, kicked them out, moved them out, and you know, people get paid. The only people that don't get paid are the poor people that that suffer the most. You know that farmers who cry, but they getting a check for not growing certain uh, products and stuff. What do you call that? I call that you can call that reparations. Uh, yeah, the plants they got paid to stay open. We bailed out Chrysler how many times? Chrysler been screwed so many times that that's now they're using it in commercials. I saved the auto industry. Fuck, we saved them. We saved the financial institutions. We gave them money, but yet we get pissed off because Miss Jackson went to the grocery store with a bridge card, and I'm looking in her buggy. I see the bridge card. She got a steak in there. She got some potato chips. She got some stuff for their kids. Some Hostess Twinkies or whatever. And she should have this. You tell people, yeah, you can't tell people what to buy or what to eat.
If your brother, uncle, sister, wife was killed in an industrial accident at Libby Owens Glass in Toledo, Ohio, or Willow Run General Motors, they don't call it reparations. Reparation has a negative connotation. They call it doing the right thing when you pay the family, right? If you were disabled because you were hit by a police car, they don't call it reparations. They call it just, right?
Yeah, we pay those black businesses that was shut down. That ain't reparations. You owe them, and make sure you pay them for those black businesses going out of business. That means the generation wealth of those owners did not pass on to their kids. Kids had to start over again. If damn, if your parents die and don't leave anything, you gotta bury them, and then you got kids. You don't have the money. Your kids got to bury you. It's a never-ending cycle of what the legacy of slavery. When they decided not to give free slaves the 40 acres and a mule, and the 40 acres was nothing compared to these folks. The way they worked that land. They worked the property, and you didn't want to give them that, man. Yeah, that tells you. Well, it's too late. They all died. No, they haven't. They descendants still walking around, suffering from the shit.
Be nice. Thank you for your comments. Let's spend a lot of time on it. I think you're being, I get your point, but here's what happens. There are some words in our lexicon that people moan and groan when they hear it, right? They don't want to solve the problem because it's associated with negativity, and it should not be. That's my only point.
Well, they took the word, they co-opted the word woke and turned it into something else. Gay used to mean happy, and it was co-op for the better or for the worse to mean something else. Well, in England, a fag is a cigarette.
Yes.
Well, you say these names because well, you can't say that. You can't, or they buried the N word. The word ain't buried
I
because
agree.
it's still used and abused. So
Tamari says it's called reparation. Miss Sheila said, how about we the people? We're not focusing on the name. We're just suggesting that these some names, like you said, Adolph, woke is mega. For 2 years I didn't know what mega was. Everybody's talking about mega. I still, if you voted for Donald, answer what's a mega? Is that someone that voted for Donald Trump, that's a middle of the road, that thought Donald Trump was better than Joe Biden, or is it a lunatic that, believes everything Donald Trump
all of the
said?
above.
Yeah, well, that's Nazi, right? Everybody's a Nazi now. We're using these words that don't carry any weight, is where I was going with this. But people get caught up in the language. That's how we are.
Yeah, well, you know what? And when you have you have poor people watching TV, they're on their phones and stuff, and they see Taylor Swift spend $30 million for a wedding, or they hear about an athlete in a topless club throw $50,000 in ones on the floor, or when they got robbed of $300,000 worth of jewelry, or they had 25 grand in their pocket, and they got robbed. You saying, damn, that's their money. They can do what they want to do. But when you see that type of shit and people crying, they not paying me. I'm a slave. How do they compare? They making millions of dollars and they still call themselves. They comparing themselves to slaves. So yeah, language is it makes a difference of how you say it and what you say it. You can listen to some of these old songs and they got the word gay in it. Now some young people listen to them and say, "Oh man, what are they talking about?" Or you happen to go to if you happen to go to England and somebody asks you for a fag, you don't jump on them. They asking you for a cigarette. They see you smoking. Yeah, John Conyers and Dr. Joanne Watson, they had a game plan. You forgot Reparation Ray Jenkins. Can't forget him.
Thank you. Last word calling is better than violence. I agree. When people realize words from are powerful, that starts from a thought, we'll be more mindful of our words. Miss Sheila, thank you, from the great educator, Miss Sheila. Kenneth Reed says language is everything. Iran is calling for reparations to Mary. The word black upsets some people too. Les, mega is white person nowadays. Thank you, Filoni Tavius. Well, Falone Tavius, I guess. Sorry if I got it wrong. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement, but you know what? You have your voice on Detroit in Black and White. If you think every white person's mega, you go ahead and believe that, but that's not even close to the truth. Reparations are repairing prisoners unjustly to Mary. That may be a way to look at things. You're not wrong, Tamari, in your point.
And people, some of these states, especially in the South, where somebody unserved 40 years in jail for something they didn't do, and they don't want to pay them. Man, Louisiana is one of those states that like to fight, don't want to pay you. And somebody served time in Angola prison for 1 year, come out fucked up, because it's one of the worst prison systems in America, which was created to house newly freed slaves who they got free labor, arrested them for all kind of shit. Reparations. I'm gonna continue to say reparations because that's what it is. It's clear. Reparations, nothing else. They got no excuses. And you don't want anybody to say, I'm sorry, I didn't even know that was reparations. I thought you was talking about something else. No, I'm talking about reparations. Somebody that worked for free for all. That's why they got rules, employment rules. You have to pay people who do the work. They're not doing it for free. No more
Unless you're a
invisible
volunteer like
code.
everybody on Detroit in Black and White, we appreciate your volunteerism by joining us and being a part of this.
Yeah, nobody works for free. You know, and when they say, "Oh, all you want is the money," damn right, because that's what you do. That's why you working. You know why I got to volunteer. Yeah, no, You don't. If you want to volunteer, that's you.
Yes.
If you don't have the money, that you got enough money, you don't need to get paid. That's you.
And be nice that there's so that's an excuse. Is there's a debt owed? Let's start there. Be nice. You're absolutely right. It is a debt owed. Rainbow was co-opted. Mr. 1213. A new slavery is all prisoners and homeless. As Black society, we shouldn't hold our breath expecting to get reparations. We should be in parallel create an economic model for our social reality, create and support Black-owned businesses. Thank you, JRW7TF. Black people determine our justice. It's reparation. That's, you know, Tamara, and you're one of our best contributors. No, all people should determine your justice. That's where I would argue the point that, as Ms. Sheila said, we the people. It needs to be we the people that take care of. It wasn't white or Black people that took care of the people that were enslaved in California in World War II, right, Adolph? It was we the people, right? It wasn't just. It was the country, and whether it was Hitler's Germany or the United States or the way we treated the Native Americans in this country, took their food supply away to starve them to death.
We gave them blankets with smallpox on it. You know, there's no question. Kenneth Reed said the Michigan Democratic Party has that volunteer thing bad. Man, it's so true. So true. Yeah, man, you need to volunteer. We don't have any money. But then they send somebody from Idaho or Missouri or whatever. They come into the city and say, "Hey, we can if you take me around and let tell me who's who, we'll pay you a stipend." But instead of the Michigan Democratic Party hiring direct out of Detroit, they say, they don't do it that way. They want you to volunteer. Thank you for your service. Well, anyway, this is Saturday. I'm gonna be like a teacher. We're not keeping you long.
I was going to say thanks to Fred and Kenneth and Les. I didn't get to their comments. Tamari, some at the end, but go ahead, Ada. You're right.
I want to thank everybody for taking time out this morning to interact with us. And thank you, Miss Teresa, Jim. We'll be back next Wednesday. That's right.
Thanks, everybody.